there. Joining me now is California Congressman Ted Lieu, a Democratic member of the House Judiciary and Foreign Affairs Committee. He's a good friend to us here on the broadcast. Thanks for joining us again. I got to ask your reaction to this latest attack as investigators are searching for a motive. What concerns you most?
Thank you, Alex, for your question. Let me first say that my prayers go out to the family and colleagues of Officer Billy Evans. These are very difficult times for the Capitol Police family, and we in Congress will make sure that they have whatever resource that they need. I look forward to the full investigation of what happened yesterday. We do know that the Capitol has been the subject of multiple attacks. I previously served on active duty in the U.S. military, and military bases are subject to attack, and that's why the first thing any base commander does is to secure and protect that base. And similarly, the U.S. Capitol is always going to be a target of attack, and we need to make sure that we're able to secure and protect it.
But given what happened January 6th, given what happened April 2nd now, what does it mean for Capitol Hill security going forward?
So we have an ongoing review of security at the U.S. Capitol, and I look forward to the final report as well as to the investigations by the various congressional committees. And we're going to be working with the Sergeant at Arms and Capitol Police and security experts to see what's the best way to secure the Capitol. But the last few months have definitely brought home that the Capitol is a target of attacks, and we just need to be able to protect it while at the same time ensuring access to the public, because we are a democracy and we need to do things transparently.
Yeah. Very hard, though, to allow public access, if for no other reason than letting the public be certain that they will be safe if they come to the Capitol. Just a week ago, I was talking with colleagues there on the Hill reporting about bringing down the fence that had been in the perimeter since the January 6th attack. That comes down. And then we have this attack on April 2nd. Do you think those are related? I mean, is it time to think about putting that fence back up? Ugly as it is, keeping people out of the seat of democracy for this nation. I mean, there's a lot of reasons not to want to put it up. But when you talk about just security, should it go back up?
So we've always had permanent barriers like the one that the car struck. And I just know that it did stop the car.
Right.
And I think those permanent barriers should remain. We've had them well before January 6th, ever since I've been in Congress. In terms of the fence, I'm not sure that would have changed very much because the car just could have struck officers and hit them into the fence as well. So in terms of the overall security layout, I think we're going to have to rely on the experts and see what U.S. Capitol Police and Sergeant at Arms and other experts believe how we should secure the Capitol.
Yeah, well, God forbid we have another attack like this. Let's hope we don't. But let's talk right now, sir, about your Republican colleague, Matt Gaetz, because there are some growing questions about his future, because we're learning about a Justice Department investigation that focuses on cash payments given to women recruited for sex. That is according to people close to the investigation, and text messages and payment receipts that have been reviewed by the New York Times. The congressman has denied the allegations. His office says he's never paid for sex. Congressman Matt Gaetz says that he has no plans to resign, but what do you make of all this? Will congressional colleagues want to work with him under this shadowy cloud?
Matt Gaetz is entitled to the presumption of innocence the same as any other person in America. But he is not entitled to sit on the House Judiciary Committee that has oversight over the very department that's investigating him. He needs to resign from the House Judiciary Committee, or Kevin McCarthy, the Republican leader, needs to remove him immediately. This is a clear conflict of interest. There's no reason he should still be on the House Judiciary Committee while this investigation is pending.
Well, you mentioned House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. I want to play what he said as to whether to remove Matt Gaetz from the Judiciary Committee, as I know you have demanded and just done so here right now. Let's take a look.
Will you take any action to remove Matt Gaetz from the Judiciary Committee while he's under investigation by the DOJ?
Those are serious implications. If it comes out to be true, yes, we would remove him if that was the case. But right now, as Matt Gaetz says, it is not true, and we don't have any information. So let's get all the information.
So he wants more information. You're saying he should not be on the committee while that information is being gathered. Who's going to win out here?
I think that Kevin McCarthy doesn't really know what he's talking about, because if it turns out to be true Matt Gaetz has way more problems than the Judiciary Committee. He should actually be removed from Congress if those allegations against him are true. But while this investigation is pending, and it's the Department of Justice doing the investigation, you can't have a member of Congress sit on the Oversight Committee of the Department of Justice. That is just a clear conflict of interest, and Kevin McCarthy needs to remove Matt Gaetz immediately.
But given the fact that the Democrats are in the majority, so they have the majority as well on the Judiciary Committee on which you sit, could Democrats have him removed from that committee, just from that committee itself?
No, so the Judiciary Committee cannot remove members of the committee. And the way it works in Congress is you rely on the other party to provide members to various committees, and you rely on them to remove members from the committees. And only in extreme case, such as the crazy conspiracy person, Marjorie Taylor Greene, would it go to a full House floor vote where you could remove a member through a floor vote.
Okay, good. I'm glad you explained that to me. I appreciate that. You will recall when Republicans called for Representative Eric Swalwell to be removed from the Intelligence Committee, and this was over ties to a suspected Chinese spy. He was not removed. Where are the differences between what he was facing and the Gaetz situation? Are they different?
Oh, absolutely. This is like comparing apples and oranges. My understanding is Representative Swalwell was never in a criminal investigation. Matt Gaetz here is a subject of a criminal investigation with very serious allegations. These are completely not comparable. And Matt Gaetz is sitting on the Oversight Committee of the Department of Justice that's investigating him. So Matt Gaetz needs to resign or be removed by Kevin McCarthy. So
you've laid it out pretty clearly. Do you think your Republican colleagues understand the two differences there between these two cases?
Oh, absolutely. They understand. They're just being completely hypocritical by not removing Matt Gaetz from the House Judiciary Committee.
Let's switch gears here and talk about a sensitive topic, that being the rise in Asian American attacks in this country. You're well aware of the horrific attack this week in New York City. It was caught on video. We're going to show that here. A 65-year-old Asian woman being knocked to the ground, beaten, kicked as her attacker was making anti-Asian statements. Staff members, though, the position from which we are seeing this incident, staff members inside that building did nothing. In fact, one actually closed the door as she was struggling to get up afterwards. How do you account for this? How do you account for people just sitting there watching?
Those staff members should be ashamed of what they did, and hopefully their employers will discipline them or even consider removing them from their positions. At the same time, we do see not just this incident, but a huge number of incidents against the Asian American community. There's been a spike across 16 cities of nearly 150% in hate crimes against Asian Americans in 2020. And that's why we're calling for more resources to go to prosecutors and investigators, as well as for people to report hate crimes and hate incidents. They can go to the nonprofit Stop AAPI Hate to make those reports, or they can report it to their local authorities.
The fact, though, that you and I are talking about this, that many in this country are talking about this, shining a light on this terrible, terrible rise in these kinds of attacks, do you think it's helping?
I do. We do now have the highest number of Asian Americans in Congress in U.S. history. We had rallies across America. They weren't massive, but they weren't small. And so you had these rallies in support of the Asian American community in a way I've never seen before. And I can guarantee you, if all of this had happened during World War II, Japanese Americans would not have been interned. So we're in a different position now where you have U.S. senators who are Asian American that are able to enact changes. You've got members of Congress, you have state and local elected officials, and you have the growing population of the Asian American community. Since 2000, the Asian American community has more than doubled in size. And by 2055, the Pew Research report projects that Asian Americans will be the largest immigrant group in America.
California Congressman Ted Lieu, I always appreciate our conversations, especially on a holiday weekend. Thank you for making time.